As far as the skill or the drill, for the skill group, the biggest thing they need to be doing is catching. Catching, running routes. They need to be doing agility with cones, okay? The biggest thing that these guys need to be able to do, whether they're a wide receiver, DB, and really even a quarterback or a running back, is they need to be able to get in and out of breaks quick. And that's where this agility with cones comes from. So you can set cones up in whatever manner you would like. A square, a triangle, a diamond, a spider technique, you know, that would look like that. We call that a spider. And these guys need to be doing short bursts and sprints and then getting tightly around cones and then moving from area to area. So you see what I've done there is around 5 cones I've created an M. So you might call this, if you wanted to, the M drill, okay, with agility. These guys need to learn that they need to use their bursts of speed. They need to shudder their feet and hands to get in and out of breaks, and then turn with their trunk and their feet and their hands very quickly to be able to, you know, maneuver tight spaces but still be fast in doing that. So that's the biggest thing right here. I would do agility with these kids every single day. I would do some form of catching every single day. Probably the most efficient way for your practices is to obviously do that with specific routes that you run, okay? And memorizing certain routes is very important so you can have an effective practice. Give me a slant, give me a post, give me a fade, give me a hitch, whatever it is that you're doing. I also would very much emphasize this. If you're going to do that, please have multiple lines so you don't have kids standing in line forever. That's the biggest thing, is getting reps with these guys. If you want to say, I worked on catching, break it down into how many catches did a kid get? How many catches did a kid get? If you say, well, I threw 50 passes, but you had 10 receivers sitting over there, that means a kid only caught or had a chance to catch 5 balls during that drill, and that's not enough. So one of the biggest things that we will do from time to time is just pair them across from one another, a partner, and they're just trying to play pepper. Throw that ball as hard as they can right at each other for 5 minutes. They'll catch 15 balls that way. That's a great way for them to just simply catch balls. You're not going to be great at catching unless you catch balls. And I know that that sounds very simple, and you know, I'm nothing groundbreaking there, but that is the truth with it right there. Okay. So catching, running routes, agility with cones. Okay. These guys need to be able to go very different directions. So because they're going to play defensive back as well, they need to be able to backpedal, and they need to be able to break. Okay? This drill that I just described is very good at teaching that. So instead of them running forward at an M drill, you could have them backpedal at the same M drill type scenario, and that teaches them to come in and out of breaks basically, and using their eyes to get a signal on where to go. So those sorts of things are very, very important in my opinion for the skill position. Quarterback is really a whole different thing. It's pretty much the mechanics of throwing, making sure that the elbow is above the shoulder, making sure that the ball is above the ear. You know, you see too many kids that throw, that when they throw, they bring the ball to throw down below their waist right there, and that's wasted energy and it's wasted motion. You'll even see that in the pros today, but the pros sometimes can be so good at it that people just simply overlook it. At a young age, I'd say the best throwing mechanic to simply do is make sure you step at your target, make sure the ball is up by your ear, make sure that when it comes back, when you cock your arm, in other words, to actually throw, your arm looks like an L, that it doesn't, the elbow is up, in other words, so the elbow's not down, so the arm looks like a V, instead your arm looks like an L. That way you're going to get the most rotation and force on the ball, and it should be a lot quicker release as well. So as a coach, that's what I would be looking for. When a kid's throwing the ball, if he's doing this right here, I would do my best to stop that, especially at a young age. If he's throwing the ball and it looks like a V, I would do my best to stop that and get that elbow up and elevated so it looks like an L more than anything else. And that's the best thing I would do with quarterbacks, is this, again, throwing back and forth, concentrating on those fundamentals, stepping to the target, ball staying up, arm looking like an L whenever you throw. I think that's the basics, and since I'm not an expert at quarterbacks, that's about the best that I can give you right there. But obviously we talked about others. Mid-skill. Mid-skill, the first thing I would do with mid-skill every single day is have them blocked. One guy holding a dummy, you know, a dummy, well, however your dummy looks, you know, and this is going to be the same with the line as well. one guy holding a dummy, let's say a mid-skill is a tight end or a fullback, and he's holding it offset a little bit because the blockers don't always stand right square in front of you, and teach them those steps. Those 6 to 8 inch steps to be able to put a foot in the ground, and on the second step engage a target with hands inside. That's the biggest thing, to be able to get a kid to understand that when he goes to step laterally wherever to block somebody, he can't cross his feet, and he needs to step towards the target, not step with under himself. So he needs to be able to gain ground towards the target with his eyes exactly where you've told him to place his hands, and his hands go there on the second step, what we call the power step. And so that's exactly the same with mid-skill and line. If the youth leagues could get that skill set down right there, that you're going to take either a lateral step or a bucket step, however you teach it, doesn't matter to me. But the first step has to gain ground, the second step has to be, boom, right to their opponent. And that second step is the power step. So the second step has to make contact with the ground as the hands are making contact with the defender. The same is really true with the defense. If you've told them to go to this gap, they need to step to that gap and then get it on their second step with hands on whoever's trying to block that gap. So really the same is true with defensive linemen. And I think just linemen in general, you need to be able to teach them to block. You need to be able to teach them the first and second step, and then you need to be able to teach them to power with hands. So if, let's say you want to get 5 guys on a 5-man sled, that's great. We still do that all the time. Do us a favor. Offset them left or right so they can get that skill down of stepping left and then right so that they can contact that 5-man sled and then driving it, okay? Always watch their feet, okay? When it comes time to actually have a great skill set for blocking, this is true with the O-line as well, so I'm not going to cover this with the O-line. It's about feet, or as we say it, it's about base. It needs to be wide. We do not want people engaging a target with their feet in together. We want those feet to be wide so that we can have our knees inside a little bit and we can drive the living daylights out of a defender. Then with the mid-skill, the truth is you've got to mix in some of the drills I just told you with the skill. So they may do half blocking and then half skill. Set it up however you like. Half every day, or one day they do nothing but blocking and the next day they do nothing but skill set. Personally, I like to do a little bit every day. So that's how I would do it. The lineman is basically those drills right there. So you see how this all does play together. So the mid-skill are going to do a lot of skill drills, but they're going to do a lot of line drills as well, and they work together in that regard. As far as the linemen are concerned, I would teach them, here's the number one thing I would obviously teach them, is to get up off the ground. I go watch youth games, and it's hilarious. It's a lot of fun, but you'll see a lineman go block somebody, or he falls down, or he gets knocked down, whatever, and he stays there. The biggest thing I think I would do is bag drills with young linemen so that they can actually teach themselves literally how to get up off the ground. For example, if you have what we just call them square, and our bags are red in color, we call them the red bags. But if you could have a kid literally on his belly and getting up over the top of a bag and just do this bag drill every single day, then those kids will be able to get up off the ground so much easier. When a big kid can get up off the ground fast, that's an extra block, that's an extra tackle that they're able to make. This is particularly good with a defensive lineman who often do get knocked down, but they can still get up in pursuit of the football. So those are the basic skills I would be teaching youth kids these days. It really, truth be told, is no different than the skills that we try to teach at the high school level. We just have to go a little bit above and beyond that.